Have you ever wondered how websites know exactly what you talked about a few hours ago? Are they watching your every move? Well, in a way, yes. They suggest products to buy, analyze their competitors, and monitor their brand's reputation. Big shots like Amazon, eBay, Twitter, Instagram, and even your new favorite, ChatGPT, are all into web scraping. They're using this trick to make their products even better, if not the absolute best. But hey, why should you care? Well, imagine truly understanding how all of this works under the hood and using it to your advantage. Picture yourself creating software that monitors the actions of platforms like Amazon, notifying your users precisely when it's the optimal moment to make a purchase. You wouldn't only develop software that wows future employers, but a handy tool that saves you money. That's exactly what we'll do in this video in the JavaScript Mastery style. You'll learn what web scraping really is and then build a tool to leverage it. Who knows, one of you might even take it to the next level and turn it into a software as a service business that others will want to use and pay for. Even Mr. Beast scrapes the web.
We just paid someone to sit there and refresh and then book it for when it came out. Wow. So like someone would cancel 6 months out, ours.
But hey, there has to be a better way to do it, right? We're developers. We can surely figure out a more efficient solution. What about a programmed scraping bot that can jump over all the most common obstacles developers face while scraping, such as handling CAPTCHAs, anti-scraping measures, IP rotation, and anything else that may require human intervention? Unless most developers out there, you will know how to build it. So let's dive into the world of web scraping so I can tell you more about website crawlers, what libraries you need to build a web scraper, and how to do scraping in the smartest way possible. And immediately after, develop a Next.js 13 scraping app that easily leaps over all the mentioned scraping obstacles. An application that perfectly combines two best concepts, Next.js and scraping, with a simple yet sweet landing page showcasing a nice header with a carousel, a search bar for scraping the products, and a section showing so far scraped products. All we need is to provide an Amazon product link, and behind the scenes, we'll scrape the details, such as product image, product price, and a special section that we calculate showcasing the average, highest, and lowest price that this item has reached so far. Then there's a details section showing product descriptions scraped from Amazon, and finally a section displaying similar scraped products to discover. But there's more than what meets the eye. We'll implement a special track option, a modal where you can provide your email address and then it'll track that product for you. First, it'll send a welcome email showing how the future's emails will look like. For example, if a product that wasn't available is now back in stock, this application will send you an email to notify you the moment it's back. And many more use cases, such as notifying you when the product reaches its lowest price ever. And will this process be manual? Well, not at all. We'll use a special programming technique called cron. It's a special technique that runs the programs automatically at specified intervals. Imagine a cron job is like a magical timer for your computer. You can tell this timer, hey, do something for me at specific time every day. For example, you can say at 8 o'clock in the morning, I want you to open up my favorite game. The timer will remember that and make sure to open your game every day at 8 a.m., just like magic. It's like having a little helper who does things for you automatically when you want them to, without having to do it yourself. Cool, right? And that's exactly what I will teach you. To trigger our scraper on a periodic basis, so we'll keep our application up to date with recent data coming from the original Amazon website. And then, depending on the conditions, we'll send emails to the user. I hope that sounds exciting, as these things are rarely taught on YouTube, and we are about to explore all of them and combine them into a functional application. So without any further ado, let's get started with the first part of this video, which is what's web scraping in the first place. If anything is going to play a significant role in this era and beyond, it is data. Photos you share on Instagram, tweets, and even this video you're watching right now are all data. Having access to large amounts of data is powerful. It is this very data that OpenAI and Midjourney used to train their models, and we all know how impressive the results are. As the amount of data grew really fast, smart people saw an opportunity to use it to make their businesses better, and quickly, web scraping came into the picture. Have you ever copied stuff from a website and written it down somewhere, like on a piece of paper, or like in a text file or Excel? Well, you've just scraped the web. Web scraping means taking information or data from websites, but instead of doing it yourself, we make programs to do it automatically. So think of web scraping as grabbing useful info from other websites without directly taking their permission to do so. We do this to help with all sorts of things, like creating new products, automations, or even checking what our competitors are up to. Currently, many big organizations scrape data in various formats, from images, videos, text, to reviews and pricing. So when you look something online, like wanting to buy a fancy MacBook M2, you'll see suggestions from different websites right at the top. And if you click that shopping button at the top, you'll see the complete list with different filters. That's Google Shopping. Google collects details from online shops only to show them to their Google Shopping page. Companies like Google or OpenAI are scraping the data available on other sites to build their amazing products. What's ChatGPT anyway? A wild wizard that went around grabbing all the public data he could find? To answer this question, let's first clarify the difference between a web scraper and a web crawler. Although the main functionality of extracting information is the same for both, they slightly differ in their process. Web crawlers generally navigate the web, and web scrapers extract specific data from the pages. Web crawlers follow all the links to discover new pages, but web scrapers target specific pages for data extraction. Usage is much different, Crawlers are mostly related to SEO analysis, and web scrapers can scrape absolutely any piece of data. In the recent world, it has been mostly used for dataset generation for machine learning training. So, as you can see, web crawler is what Google or other browsers use to index websites. They too navigate through our whole website first, find links, and rank them accordingly. But on the other hand, scraping targets specific types of websites on their page. It's more about focusing on what truly matters. But with that in mind, how do web scrapers truly work? It all starts with sending an HTTP request. We send requests to websites we want to scrape. This process is automatic. It's not like you sit the whole day pressing a button to make requests. Our code will do it on its own. Next, we get a reply to our scraper's request with the website's content. This content usually includes things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript pages. As we receive all the content, we need to go through the process of parsing and carefully selecting the specific things that matter to us. If we're doing a price comparison, we're interested in the product and its price details. But how do we actually do the parsing? Well, after we get a response from a website, it's most likely going to include an HTML page. And let's say you want to extract price from a product page. We have to directly pinpoint the element that holds the price information. For instance, you inspect the price of a product on an Amazon website. You'll notice it's located within a specific type of element called a span element, which is identified by a unique class named like a price whole. Of course, it can be different for different websites. That's the goal here. We'll focus on this specific element to retrieve our desired data, whether it's the title, pricing, or any other information from this page. Once we've parsed the content, we extract only the data we're interested in. And lastly, you write the necessary code and store the extracted data in your database. Use it for training machine learning models or building new apps. I hope that by now you have just a bit of a better understanding of the typical scraping process. But now, let me teach you how to create web scrapers. Is there a ton of code that we have to write? Well, not at all. People often think web scraping is something that takes a lot of work to build. Most of the time, it's only about focusing on business logic, which means figuring out what kind of data you want and where you want to get it from. Some smart minds have already created amazing open source scrapers we can install, call, and we're good to go with. One of the most popular scrapers is Puppeteer. Right now, you're most likely watching this video through a browser that has a user interface you can interact with. This is called a headful browser. On the contrary, the headless browser doesn't have a graphical user interface, or GUI for short. It has no visual interface like the traditional browsers we use daily. It runs in the background and allows us to do automated web actions programmatically without displaying the web page on the screen. Developed by Google, it's one of the top choices for many developers who do web scraping. And here's a quick example of how we can use it. First, you import required modules. Then, you create an Express app, define a route to handle web scraping, launch a headless browser using Puppeteer, open up a new browser page, navigate to the Amazon product page, extract all information from the page, close the browser, and send the scraped data as a JSON response. There are also other tools like Cheerio that help us parse the HTML content more easily. And Cheerio can be paired with other scraping tools. For example, with Puppeteer. Import required modules, create an Express app, define a route to handle scraping, launch a headless browser using Puppeteer, open up a new page, navigate to the Amazon product page, get the HTML content, load the content into Cheerio, extract information from the page using Cheerio selectors, which is much simpler than doing it manually, and then close the browser and send the scraped data as a JSON response. Although the difference with and without Cheerio may not be noticeable right now, once you build something big like what we'll do today, you'll immediately notice how useful it is. Sounds simple so far? Well, here's where things get a bit more complicated. There are many web scraping obstacles. It's not us trying to make these requests, but the code we wrote, designed to act like a human, but still, it's not. The websites we scrape.
If you're a web designer, here are 4 Wix Studio features you gotta know.
Can understand who's using their site, and if they notice something fishy, they'll immediately block your IP. Web scraping is all about imitating a human and working on their behalf. It has to simulate the behavior of a real human being. For that reason, you may have seen some CAPTCHAs like solving puzzles and identifying objects and images. They've gotten pretty crazy lately, requesting us to do all sorts of things to prove we're human. Websites use CAPTCHAs to prevent automated bots and scrapers from accessing their content. So if you're a human being watching this video, like it and comment down below on how you like these videos that start with a crash course and then advance into a build and deploy. I'm always searching for new ways to provide you with the best content possible, and your opinion truly means a lot to me. The second way websites block you is by doing IP blocking and rate limiting. If you send too many requests, you're done. The third obstacle we face is dynamic content. As web developers, we build websites using React that loads the content after the initial page load. We send minimal HTML and execute our JavaScript code based on the conditions. Traditional scrapers might struggle to capture this dynamic content. You might be reminded of the headless browsers we just discussed. Although these headless browsers are great, they still can't crack a few of these problems. So where do they fail? Well, all of the obstacles we talked about, from handling JavaScript-heavy pages, CAPTCHAs, anti-scraping measures, user interactions like searching something before extracting data from a page, device detection, complex navigations, IP rotation, managing requests, legal concerns, and literally anything that may require human intervention while scraping. The name? Bright Data. Being rated as one of the top most voted for web scraping, Bright Data kind of does it. No, they haven't hired an army of people to do the job. Instead, they've engineered a headful browser termed Scraping Browser, which will do the things as if a human is actually using the website. It almost completely imitates a human. And IP rotation? It does it automatically, so the creator of any website will never know who is using their website. It can be you or another Bright Data service. No one will know. And that's exactly the reason we'll use Bright Data in our project, to build a project without worrying of any above obstacles. Don't trust me blindly. Here are a few examples to show you why we'll use Bright Data. From big companies, including Upwork, everyone out there is recommending Bright Data if you really want to build a proper web scraping project. And the scraping browser isn't the only feature Bright Data has to offer. They go beyond that by providing big companies' datasets with a unique web unlocker feature, a way to getting unblocked. It's going to help you overcome any website blocks with its AI automated features. And the best thing is, we'll use this same amazing feature to scrape the data from Amazon websites in a couple of seconds within the app you are about to build. So without any further ado, I hope you learned a lot about why scraping is important, how to do it, what the obstacles are, and now you are going to build your own unblockable web scraping tool using Bright Data. To get started building our phenomenal price tracker application, we can start as we usually do by creating a new empty folder on our desktop. We're starting from scratch, and let's call it PriceWise. Then open up an empty Visual Studio Code window and simply drag and drop that folder in. After which you can go full screen or half screen, go to the top left, View, and then Terminal. This is going to open up a built-in Visual Studio Code terminal. Once you have it, we can initialize our Next.js application. And Next.js 13 is the React framework for the web. It is used by some of the world's largest companies, enables you to create full-stack web applications by extending the latest React features and integrating powerful Rust-based JavaScript tooling for the fastest builds. So let's go ahead and click Get Started. Immediately right here, you can read more through the Next.js documentation and learning about most important features such as routing, rendering, data fetching, and more. And then you can go to the installation process where we can follow the documentation to install it. I would never want you to just go ahead and type out the commands without knowing why or how I got to them in the first place. So that's why I want to refer to the documentation whenever we're doing something. And that's the exact premise behind our ultimate Next.js 13 course. If you haven't already, go to jsmastery.pro/next13. And here you can see why many of these companies are developing their applications in Next.js and how you can join them in doing so while understanding all of these concepts we've seen within the documentation and more. So if you're interested in learning Next, which I'm sure you are because you're watching this video, you're going to love what we do within the Next.js course, turning this into something like this. So let's get started with the installation of our project by copying this command right here, going back within our app, pasting it, and with the installation of our project by copying this command right here, going back within our app, pasting it, and then just saying // to create it in the current repository we're in. Once you do that, you can press Y to install the package that's going to install our app, and then you can answer a couple of questions. In this case, we do want to use TypeScript, so we can say yes. For ESLint, I'm going to say no, just so we have a simpler installation process. For Tailwind CSS, we're going to say yes, no source directory, app router, definitely. We don't need to customize the import alias, and that's it. Source directory, app router, definitely. We don't need to customize the import alias, and that's it. I was mostly pressing just enter to go with the default options. So now let's wait until the dependencies have been installed, and then we can start developing our application in the initial file and folder structure. And there we go, success. Created Pricewise at desktop right here. I'm gonna clear my terminal and success. Created Pricewise at desktop right here. I'm gonna clear my terminal and I'm gonna immediately run npm run dev, which is going to open up our app on localhost 3000. Once it runs it, you can simply press Control-click to open it up in the browser. And once it runs it, you can simply press Control-click to open it up in the browser. And you'll be greeted with this great Next.js starter screen. So let's drag and drop that all the way to the left, and that's going to allow us to have enough space for the development of of our application while at the same time looking at the deployed site. Let's close our terminal and let's start looking into the base file and folder structure. So first of all, here we're going to have the app. And within the app, we have our home, but we don't need any of these. So and within the app, we have our home, but we don't need any of these. So you can simply just remove everything and run RAFCE. This is going to create a base React arrow function component, FCE. This is going to create a base React arrow function component. And this is going to create a base and run RAFCE. This is going to create a base React arrow function component and something known as page, but we can rename it to home. There we go. So this is our home page, and now you can see just home. If RAFCE didn't work for you, that must mean that you don't have the ES7 Plus React, Redux, React Native snippets installed. So just install this extension and and it should work immediately. Great. So with that said, now we have our page, but we do have some weird lines appearing right here. That's because our globals.css is applying some weird styles. So what you can do is go to the description of this video, and there you're going to find a GitHub gist with the modified globals.css file. So simply copy it and paste it over here. If you save it and reload the page, you're going to notice that we're missing the font inter. And this font will have to be applied as a custom class within our Tailwind config. So in that same GitHub gist, you'll find a modified tailwind.config.ts, which you can simply override right here. Once you do that, you're going to notice that here we keep almost everything the same, but we do change a couple of primary colors just so we have a consistent application coloring. And we also add the font family of inter. So another thing we need to do is we need to head into the layout.tsx. And this is where you actually import fonts from Google or elsewhere. So alongside importing inter, what we can also do is we can also get the space grotesque like this. And we're going to define inter as a subset of Latin. And we're going to also define another font right here by saying const space grotesque. And that's going to be equal to space underscore grotesque, where we define a subsets of Latin like so. And we can also add different kinds of weights right here by saying weights, which is going to be an array of 300. And I believe those have to be strings. So 300, we're going to also have 400, 500, 600, and 700. So we want to go really bold. And we can see that our TypeScript is complaining right here. It is going to be just weight, not weights. So immediately you can see how useful it is to have TypeScript have your back. And with that, everything works. We're back on home and we don't have those weird lines because we have modified the globals.css and the tailwind.config.ts files. Now bear with me, we didn't do any additional crazy styling here. We've just done the setup. Same thing for the global CSS. So here we have some often used cards, which we're going to apply, which apply a couple of different basic styles from Tailwind. But the majority of the styling of this application will still be done exactly by you by following this tutorial. So you don't have to worry about that. This is just a setup to make our life easier in the long run. Now that we're on our home, let's also modify our layout. So in the layout, we do import globals.css, we import the metadata, and finally we import the inter and space grotesque font, which we define right here. After that, we have our metadata where you can change your application's title. Ours is going to be called Pricewise. And you can add a description where you can say something like track product prices effortlessly and save money on your online shopping, which is exactly what our app does. And it's really cool that you can immediately just change the title and the description right here, which is going to modify your SEO, instead of which we have our children. But here we also want to add a navbar because we want our navbar real CSS.
I knew I was underwater. I just didn't realize I was this underwater.
But icons /search.svg, and we can also give it an alt. So let's do that next. To get started with our home, we can start with the UI and the UX of the home, meaning what we can visually see on the screen before we start implementing the functionality. So with that said, we're going to wrap everything in an empty React fragment, which allows us to add more elements within it. And then first, we're going to wrap the first part within a section HTML5 component. This section is going to have a class name equal to padding x of 6. And just to be able to visually see it, I'm going to add a border of 2 and a border red 500. Now you should be able to see how this component behaves. Right now, it's just a line, but on medium devices, we can give. With that said, let's go. We want to position it absolutely with a minus left 15%. So we want to say if hostname.includes amazon.com or hostname.includes maybe something like Amazon dot, create a new folder, as well as import everything as Cheerio. And then we have text of an element with an ID of product title. In the same way, if you want, but once you do it properly, dot slice, the different kinds of types we'll be using, such as our product type, our notification type, user, and price history item. We're going to go through all of these without any issues and without making any payments. So the process for you might earn means exit out of the function. If we do have a product though, and let's go all the way to a new folder we'll create called lib, as in library. Within it, we can create a new folder called actions. And within actions, we can create a new file called index.ts. Here, you can declare that file as a use server. This means that all the code written here will run only on server. And there, we can create a new function, and we can immediately export it by saying export async function scrape URL of a product down the line. If it doesn't exist, product though, we'll have to do try and. So what we can do here is declare the error as type to await have to develop to be of a type per function and a proxy configuration. The issues and without making any payment. Once you sign in, you might be a bit different, but in general, you need to sign in for the platform. Once you sign in, you'll be greeted with a dashboard that looks like this. You have a new scraping report. Then right here, you'll be able to see many different services, such as Proxy Manager, Proxy. Here, you'll want to choose the Web Unlocker tool. So go to My Proxies and then click Add on top right and add a new Web Unlocker tool. Here, you can see monthly cost, but once again, you don't have to worry about that. You're getting all of these benefits and you have a solution name. We can name it something like PriceWise. And I don't think we'll need special features for now, nor the country. So for now, simply click Add. We can easily change this later on. And yes, we want to create a new zone called PriceWise. Once you've created it, you can see your host, your username, your password, and all the other things. So let's utilize this within our code. Right here, we can just copy this here and paste it directly, but data is safe. So let's create a new _username variable, right? I'm saying process or password. And we can declare it by, we also want them numbers, session ID, add a dash, super proxy, fast, flexible, and elegant library for parsing and manipulating HTML and XML. A set of calls which you can use to really quickly parse through HTML. And what is data scraping if not parsing the HTML content you see? So we're going to use that. So let's